Hello everyone, welcome back to Chalo Sikhte Hai. In this video, I will show you a tactical motive which can save you from the worst positions. I will start from a game between Mr. Alfred Erhart Post and Mr. Aron Nimzowitch. This game is 98 moves long, so if I show you the entire game, it will become a very boring long video. So instead, I would just scroll down the moves to the main position. I would leave a link to the entire video if you want to check it out. Here we have reached our main position. In this position, it is winning for white. White is a pawn up, and not only that, white will win the a pawn by playing rook d3 check, king a2, rook a7, and now there is no reasonable way to defend the a pawn, and it will soon be a more or less easy win. But white instead plays on the 59th move king f4, and here is where the fun begins. Black realizes that the king and the pawn has nowhere to go, so he plays rook h4 check. White plays king g5, and here comes the first shock. Black plays rook to f3. What? Nimzowitch is giving a free rook? Who doesn't want a free rook? So white captured the rook on h4. Now Nimzowitch played rook f4 check, king g3, rook f3 check. What? He is again giving a rook? Oh, but wait, black only has a king and pawn if white captures the rook, and both the king and the pawn has nowhere to go. So it will be a stalemate and black will get away with a draw. So instead, Post plays king g4 and asks Nimzowitch what will he do now. Nimzowitch answers with rook f4 check, telling Post that he will just keep checking until he captures, and once he captures it will be a draw by stalemate. So white moved the king. Black again gave a check. White again moved his king. Black again gave a check. This continued. So now you must be thinking that this is it. It is a draw. This will keep going on. Black will give a check. White will move up the king. But white have found a tricky path for the king to escape the checks from the black rook. White played king d4. Black gave a check. White again played king d5. Rook c5 check. King d6. Rook c6 check. King d7. But now there is no way to keep checking. If rook d6, then white plays rook captures d6, and it is not a stalemate because black can play king a2. If black plays rook c7 check, white will simply play rook c7. Again it is not a stalemate, white can play king b3. So instead, now black tries another trick with rook b6. Now if rook b6, then it is again stalemate. But white plays rook c7. Now black tries a last trick with rook b2. Now if we follow the normal rule which says we should exchange pieces when we are up in material, then sadly it will end in a draw, because after rook b2, king b2, the white king is way too far, and black will just keep advancing the a pawn, and eventually white will be forced to give the rook for the pawn, which will end in a draw. But Mr. Post was very clever. After rook b2, he simply played rook d4. Now there is no more trick. So you must be thinking that it is now over for black. He has nothing to do. He is simply losing. But keep in mind, when you are playing against a great player like Aron Nimzowitch, it is never over until it is over. So black here played rook b8. White plays rook c4, attacking the a pawn. Black plays rook a8, defending the a pawn. White played rook b4, rook a6, king e7, rook a7 check, king e6, rook a6 check, king e5, rook a5 check, king e4, rook a6, king d3, rook a8, king c2. But here black plays rook c8 check. setting a last trap for white, and white fell right into it with the move King b1. Pause the video here and try to find the move to draw with black. Congratulations if you have found the correct answer. The correct move here is Rook b8 and the game ended in a draw. Why? Because the b4 rook is pinned by the rook on b8 to the king. So the rook on b4 cannot move. The rook can only move along the b file. Also, this rook is attacked twice by the rook on b8 and the king on a3. So, white is forced to move the rook. The only place for the rook to go if white does not want to lose material is rook to b8. But this results in stalemate. So, the game ends in a draw. From this game, you can learn the tactical motif. But not only that, you also learn that you should never give up. You should remain hopeful and try to set traps. Just like Mr. Aron Nimzowitch, you might also be able to save some of your games like this. Now before we continue, please hit the like button if you have learned and enjoyed the video. It only takes a moment and it gives us motivation to make more educational chess content like this. So if you have not yet liked, please take a moment to hit the like button. Now to our next example. Coming to our next example, this is where the tactical motif actually worked. In this position, black is clearly winning. Pause the video and try to save the game for white. Congratulations if you have found the correct answer. The correct move is rook to e5 check. If black captures the rook by king e5 or if black captures the rook in any way, let's say black captures the rook by king e5, it is a stalemate. Also, if black plays f e5, it is still a stalemate. So, black needs to move the king. Now, if black moves the king to somewhere like f7, then white will simply play rook e7 check. Black plays king g8, white plays rook e8 check, king h7, rook e7 check, king e8, rook e8 check, king g7, rook e7 check, and it will continue. If black plays king h6, then white plays rook h7, forcing black to capture the rook, and it will be again a stalemate. So, instead, if black plays something like king d6, then white will play rook d5 check. If black plays king c6, rook c5 check. If king b6, now you need to be careful. Here, if you do the mistake of playing rook b5, you are going to lose because now black will play king c6. After rook c5 check, king d6. Now if we again play rook d5 check, black will simply capture the rook by king d5 because here there is a major difference that there is no black pawn on the b5 square, so the white pawn is free to move and it is not a stalemate. Instead, after king b6, white should play rook c6 check. After king b7, rook c7 check, king a8, rook c8 check, king a7, rook c7 check, king b8, rook c8 check. It will continue. White will keep checking the king and black cannot capture because if black captures the rook, it will again be a stalemate. Now, in this position, it is black to move. White has a very advantageous position because of his dominating position of knight in the center. He also has an extra pawn on d4 which is a passed pawn. Also, black's bishop on g8 is very passive and pinned to the king. Black is also kind of stuck. His rook cannot move from the f file because if it moves, then knight to f7 will be checkmate. He cannot also capture the pawn on h6 by playing rook h6, because then knight f7 check, king g8, knight h6, king h6, rook g8 will simply win white an entire rook, and white will eventually win the game. So pause the video here and try to find a way to draw to save the game with black. If you have found the answer to this position, write the answer in the comment section below. The first person to answer correctly, I will pin the comment so that others can see the answer as well. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have learned something from the video, hit the like button. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel for more quality chess content like this. We keep making chess videos that will help chess players to become better at the game. So if you want to improve your chess, then you should hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification button so that you don't miss out our latest videos. I will see you soon in my next video. Bye.